Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Items graded yesterday, or items graded on February 28th. We had PSA with 75,000 cards. We had CGC with 21,000 cards. And we had Tag with 6,200 cards. Finally breaking into the top three. And, well, all right, so let's talk about it. Last year in 2025, I made a video talking about what Tag has to do to overtake the market, the grading market. And a lot of people, or a lot of PSA fanboys jumped into the video and started dropping comments and saying how Tag will never ever overtake the market. And you know, you're right. I kind of made a mistake in the video. I did say that it was going to be a matter of time before Tag overtook the market, but honestly, I think we need to set our expectations to what they need to be, and we need Tag to start taking a bigger bite of the market share. And with a lot of the controversies that kind of happened in the beginning of 2026, I mean, we're talking about the acquisition of their competitor Beckett. We're talking about the price increase while still maintaining a high turnover time. We're looking at like around 4 to 5 months before you get your cards back from PSA. A lot of content creators online started making videos. Prominent creators, we're talking about Mimic Brew, we are talking about Pokebeard, um, that are considering or going to be sending some cards to Tag. And while they're going to be sending some cards to Tag because they want, like, they've actually have some sponsorships with them, or not sponsorships, but I guess, what do you call those things that they have that I don't. um I guess not, they're not sponsorships, but they're working with them, that they're going to be supporting it. They see they see Tag as the best AI grading company, while they see PSA as the best subjective grading company. So right now, that it seems like the momentum is starting to pick up for Tag. Little by little, the numbers keep increasing, and it seems like its effect is kind of starting reaching people. As more content creators become more vocal, they're doing cross grading experiments. I mean, I've done some cross grading experiments myself. This this Tag 10 Tyranitar was an 8.5 CGC. I went ahead and cracked it, regraded it, and it came back as a 10. And I'll go ahead and talk about it later in another video. But as more content creators keep doing this, I do see a big opportunity for Tag, even if it's just like grading another, right now, they cracked the top three with just 6,000 cards. But I do see them getting an opportunity to crack eventually 10,000 cards in a day. Now, I do feel like that is going to be a hard limitation due to their technology or to the equipment. We don't know how many grading pods they have at Tag's headquarters, but I think it's more of a hardware limitation than supply. I mean, whenever it comes to grading with Tag, like right now, you're at a 95 business days to get your cards back through bulk grading. And even if you're doing bulk grading, I would probably advise that maybe you don't. Unless there's a specific card, like if you're doing mass submissions of a specific card, not different cards, I recommend maybe you don't do bulk grading. But in order for Tag to take more of the market share, this is going to have to be more of a community effort. As content creators keep talking about Tag, grading with Tag, and those numbers of Tag cards graded keeps going up, nothing is going to really change until the consumer perspective changes. And what I mean by community effort is, in order for Tag to be taken serious, Tag 10s or Tag pristine 10s have to sell for the same amount of value that PSA 10s do, or even black label 10s. And it has, like, unfortunately, this is like where the market, where this is where the hobby and the market trends are. Whenever people are paying those prices, they're showing, especially online. Like they're especially online whenever the information is getting recorded to collector, to shiny, to any kind of application that is keeping track of these markets for collecting or investing purposes. It has to reflect online, so that way that trend continues going to the shows. See, I have a couple cards that I'm listing. Like I didn't want to like sell them, but at the end of the day, we're in the very beginning stages of tag, and the best way to kind of support that company is not only grading with them, but buying the cards in the second market at that price. So what should we be grading with tag? Well, see, I guess it's really going to depend on to us what we want tag for it to be. Whether we want tag to be known as the grading company for collectors, or do we want tag to be the grading company for resellers. We understand that PSA is the resale king, right? The cards are very liquid, they resell faster than CGC, that Beckett, and obviously than tag, right? And a lot, there's no hiding it, and there's no shame when people admit it, that they are a reseller, like they're Pokemon content reseller vendor, right? They're just here to resell, make money on Pokemon content. And here's the thing, whenever there's an opportunity, you should too. Is there an opportunity for you to make money through tag? Absolutely, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be just grading cards with tag and then selling them. Like it's going to take some time. The cards will move eventually, but it's slow. The way that we have to do this is by honestly buying them online on eBay. See, whenever I list a card, I will have the buyout price, and yeah, it's gonna be a little bit higher than the market value, but it's because there's limited cards. There's less cards in the tags lab than is in PSA. So I take population into consideration. And the other thing I take into consideration is I'm trying to limit people buying tax labs at a cheap price to resell or to crack and regrade with PSA. Now, that's absolutely a viable strategy, but honestly, I would be looking more for buying tag cards. And if they're in the pristine 10 condition, or maybe like the high 10s, those are the cards that I would be buying in order to try to sell them or regrade them with Beckett and possibly get a back label and reap the benefits of what AI could be used for. I see AI being a very useful company when it comes to like teaching and learning about grading. And that's kind of why, like, moving forward, whenever I'm grading with cards, I'm going to limit the bulk submissions that I'm going to be doing. And I kind of want to do the whole submission that gives you the 1,000 point system, because it doesn't come with the bulk grading, which honestly I think it's a little bit of a shame, but I understand. Having a tag slab right there in the QR code, having the final point that it got out of 1,000 points, can be very beneficial determining the price ranges. Because I think maybe down the road, if grading really does take off and tag is as popular as it will be or it could be, we're going to go down to maybe like tag 10s are going to be relatively hard to hit, and there's going to be a premium for tag slabs that are over, let's say, the 980 points, because that's still a tag 10. But in order to get like a pristine tag 10, you have to be over 990 points out of 1,000. So you can only be deducted 10 points from the card to get a tag 10. So I do see a premium for pristine 10s, but I also do see a little bit of a premium for high tag 10s. And that's kind of like a benefit of resellers or vendors that can use tag as an advantage, especially whenever they got the information of the 1,000 point system right in front of them. Um, but what cards should we be sending? Well, honestly, as like if you're a collector, I know for a fact you'll want to be sending a lot of the cards, whether if you're ripping cards with your spouse, with your kids, with friends, and you want to encapsulate the memory. I understand the justification of maybe sending a regular illustration rare or illustration rare or art rare Pokemon card into tag grading, but I would recommend maybe you don't. Especially if you're going to be paying for the 1,000 point system, that you're very strict on the cards that you're going to be selling it, because at the end of the day we don't want tag to be known kind of like CGC. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with CGC, but right now a very strong point of CGC is that they are the cheap, cost effective way of grading bulk cards. And I don't think tag should be known as that. I think tag strengths, which is its transparency, which is its point system, should be valued more and used. So whenever you're grading cards, some of the cards that I absolutely think that you should be grading are always going to be like the chase cards of every single set. If you pull that card, it should be graded through tag and pay the full price to get the full 1,000 point system. Other cards that you should consider grading are going to be high, not high valued, but SARs or special illustration rares of Pokemon that are well known. We're talking about like obviously like your Umbreon, your Charizards, maybe some the first appearances of some of these new Pokemon. They're gonna age well down the road, because at the end of the day, as this hobby continues to grow and get mainstream, some people are going to be grading, or some people are going to be jumping into the Pokemon hobby by video games. And Generation 1 might not be like the only generation that they play. Some kids are going to end up growing with Generation 7, 8, 9, and now some kids are going to grow up with Generation 10. So, special illustration where of new Pokemon should be a strong consideration for tag grading. Other cards that you should definitely be grading, I think, are promo cards, especially like ETB or Pokemon Center promo cards. Now, obviously, the Pokemon Center promo cards are very limited because it all comes from the Pokemon Center ETBs, and it doesn't seem like, as of right now, of late 2025 and early 2026, that the Pokemon Company has any intention of printing ETBs. While they do massive reprints of some of the earlier sets, it's coming in the form of booster bundles or miscellaneous products, but not ETB themselves. So even if you have a regular ETB promo card, it's one of those cards that you should really consider grading, because even though this is one of the most mass printed eras of Pokemon cards, black promo cards or ETB cards, if you want to call them that, whatever you want to call it, or any kind of promotional card, they're more of a limited run than your regular cards that you can pull. So promo cards should definitely be cards that you are grading, especially even like booster boxes, stamped cards, promo cards. I mean, like, okay, like Destined Rivals. One of the big reasons why Destined Rivals is going up on price is because the speculation that they're no longer going to be reprinting booster boxes. So Destined Rivals is literally going up in price because of the shortage of the booster boxes. Now, unfortunately, Destined Rivals didn't get a booster box enhancement or box topper, but certain sets are. In the Scarlet and Violet era, I believe that Journey Together with Ants Restaurant was one of the few cards or few sets that got a enhanced booster box promo card. And then in the Mega Evolution, I believe so far it's Mega Base Evolution. So we're talking about that Bulbasaur. So those cards are kind of limited. So I think that's honestly a good time to kind of pick some of those cards up and get them graded. With that being said, also it kind of looks like in the Mega Evolution, whenever they're releasing like certain promotional product for these new sets, sometimes they're kind of staying away from full illustration rare promo cards, and they're doing Cosmo Hollows. Now, as a collector, I think Cosmo Hollows are some of the best, amazing looking cards that you can actually get yourself, especially have a swirl. So having a swirl in a 10 I can tell you right now, there's going to be a premium behind those cards because there's going to be collectors who prefer the half art rather than the full art. And honestly, I see that. I do see, like, it's almost like a refined palette, a refined taste of collecting half art cards, promotional cards, rather than your typical illustration rare cards, especially since those Cosmo Holo Swirl cards are way harder to grade than your regular illustration cards, just because the Cosmo Holo Swirls can be easily scratched. Um, Illustration rare cards, your regular illustration cards, maybe don't grade every single one of them that you pull. The ones that I would recommend you grading are obviously are going to be your fan popular Pokemon, and honestly, I would also consider grading any Generation 1 Pokemon card. Because as of right now, we're entering March of 2026. Pokemon Day just announced Generation 10, and they didn't give us really any information about what the TCG said we have for the rest of the year, except that we know we're going to get the 30th anniversary. But one of the biggest things I feel like they released this year, and no one's really talking about it, or it's kind of going underrated, is going to be the remake of Fire Red and Leaf Green. This is OG Pokemon games right here in the Switch, and look, you gotta understand why Nintendo did this. They're gonna give you this game hoping that a lot more millennials who have the money jump into the hobby of Pokemon, especially seeing how much money there is behind the TCG. TCG players will probably play Fire Red and Leaf Green, and people who play Leaf Green and Fire Red will might eventually end up going to the TCG space. So Generation 1 Pokemon are probably going to be very popular and valuable when it comes to cards. Now, if you don't believe me, let's just go ahead and look at the specialty from Scarlet and Violet, the 151. 151 is also going back in a generational run. And honestly, while it is a good set, like I might be a Gen 1 hater or maybe just a 151 hater, but I don't think necessarily that 151 is it's as good as the price suggests. It was super printed, but the only reason why the 151 set is so expensive, it's because it's 151. Because whenever we're looking at the full scale of the cards that we got of that set with like full art cards, like illustration rare and SARs, we got the starters, right? You got your Charizard, or you got your Charmander, Bulbasaur, and your Squirtle line evolution, all got an illustration rare or a special illustration rare, you know, but they've always gotten that kind of treatment. Aside from that, you had one legendary bird, you have your legendary Pokemon's Mew and Mewtwo, and they had promotional cards and different products. But you had Snorlax, which is a fan favorite Pokemon. But some of the choices that they had is they had a Caterpie, and I don't get me wrong, the Caterpie goes hard. Poliwhirl is probably the best illustration rare card of 151. You can argue about it all you want, but I think that one's probably going to be the best one. But like the rest of the Pokemon, that's a stage, that's a middle stage evolution, right? Whenever we're looking at some of the other cards, Machoke, got an illustration rare, and at first I'm like that card has no chance. But as people play Fire Red and Leaf Green, if they don't have any other people to play the game with and to trade, that might end up being their best fighting type Pokemon in their team. So there's no any other way of cheesing and getting them a champ. Machoke might be the last, like that might be their best fighting type Pokemon, right? But we got a Machoke, we got Omanite, no Kabuto, right? What? But like not even we didn't get a Narcanide, we didn't get a Gyarados. I mean, yeah, we got full art cards with crowns, but we didn't like, and that said, we didn't get them as illustration rares. But we've been getting a lot of Generation 1 love throughout the whole entire Scarlet and Violet series, and then even going into Mega Evolutions. Now, there's this interesting theory that in generation, sorry, for the 30th anniversary, that we're gonna get a specialty set. We're gonna get our generate our 30-year anniversary, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a 30-year fire red set and a leaf green set. With like, and with Pokemon, they cater to those games that are exclusive. So we might actually get another Ninetales. We might find actually get a Arcanine. But there's certain Pokemons that can definitely benefit from this. And if that happens, then I do see a lot of the collectors, especially around our age, millennial collectors, who would want to at least master set or get every single Gen 1 Pokemon and an illustration or special illustration art because it might be more viable. Right now, you can only do it with the black and white Pokemon, but wouldn't be surprised if the next set that does something like that is going to be for Generation 1. So, definitely great Generation 1 Pokemon cards, definitely great Cosmo Hollow Pokemon, definitely great promotional cards. If you got any cards with texture. Now, the last set of cards that I think that you should be grading is like, look, I like to consider myself as a frugal collector. I don't buy anything that is not MSRP. And when it comes to like cards, I want to have a massive collection. So I'm going the cheapest rate possible. So I do open a lot of Japanese booster boxes. It just makes financial sense to go with that because at the end of the day, I'm not putting my life savings into this hobby to make money. I'm collecting, right? And Japanese cards will have the least amount of manipulation. But does that mean that you should be grading every single illustration rare Pokemon card that you can get from a Japanese booster box? Look, absolutely not. The way that I see it is if you're going to be grading illustration rare cards, you go with the English side just for the sake that there is going to be more profit if you get a 10 in that card than you do with the Japanese. It's going to take a long time to show that maybe some of these Japanese cards, they're not automatic 10s like how people who grade with PSA and CG suggest. There's a good possibility that CGC and PSA don't really know how to grade some of these Japanese products. So they give them more nines, or maybe they pass more tens because they think those cards, they always hear that they have the best quality control and they're basically automatic tens. So when it comes to Japanese cards, limit the cards that you're going to be grading. If there's any exclusive Japanese promo cards, grade those. Absolutely grade those. If you pull any of the SARs and texture cards, grade those. Because I'm telling you right now, the texture in Japanese cards is second to none. No one compares. Their texture is way better than what you would think. So grade those cards. But and if you're just gonna grade like some illustration words with Japanese product, then just know that if you're not gonna get a 10, like it's basically a junk slab. You can go ahead and keep that card encapsulated and maybe crack it down the road if for whatever reason that illustration where went up in value. But this is where I would argue go ahead and do that more with the English cards than the Japanese cards, especially if you're living in the Western hemisphere. Go ahead and grade English cards if you can go ahead and grade get them. Recrack those and grade them. Don't focus so much in mass grading Japanese cards because even then while the hobby is extremely popular, it's still a niche within the collecting niche. So Japanese cards, well, they have a special place in my heart, and I love Japanese cards. I really do. I also understand that your ceiling for Japanese cards is way lower than it is in English cards, especially if you're trying to make money at this hobby. If you're trying to make it into like a viable business and you want to use tag grading because it's a brand new toy and it's like kind of like the underdog that everyone's cheering for, do yourself a favor and do English. Because even if tag fails, the one thing that's not going to fail is going to be Pokemon cards. So even if the tag slab doesn't pop off. Those cards are going to be preserved in that plastic. And if that card that you have for whatever reason, because sometimes some cards blow up 5, 10 years down the road, You'll have it in an easy to crack slab because that's one of the biggest accusation of tag. You have it in an easy to crack slab so that way you can resell it and you didn't really lose much on your investment into this hobby. Because at the end of the day, like you do kind of have to see this hobby as an investment. Because if you're throwing money into this hobby and even if you're collecting it, if you're ever in a hard spot, you know you can sell your Pokemon cards. You're not gonna get everything that you put into it, but you can get some money out of it to help you out of a tough time. But yeah, so I mean, even though tag is becoming extremely popular, or not extremely popular. I'm not even going to start hyping it up like that. Even though tag is getting more popular, more content creators are talking about it. And I think there is a big space for content creators to make content around tag slabs and AI grading itself. It's just people have to go more into it. Maybe not go so much about the value, but seeing if they can actually beat the AI and get a 10. Because I'm telling you right now, I don't think that tag necessarily wants to give you free tens. There's going to be content that people are going to watch and support tag and going to be grading with tag. But those are going to be my thoughts for the weekend. I mean, it's been a crazy week whenever we're looking at the Pokemon market, it seems, because it seems like everything is going up on price. I mean, we are talking about like 151 going on a crazy run. Phantasmal Flames is going on a crazy run. And then all of a sudden, did you guys know that like the Japanese like Night Wanderer is kind of going off? It's doing fairly well, which is one of the worst sets when it comes to well, it's one of the worst sets in the Scarlet and Violet era, and a lot of people are comparing Perfect Order to like Night Wanderer or Perfect Order to Shrouded Fable, but Shrouded Fable is doing fairly well. It's interesting. We'll talk about that later. But outside from that, if you guys are gonna be grading with tag, go ahead and like and subscribe. Follow my content. I'm gonna continue talking about slabs, like tag slabs, talking about some cross grading and stuff like that. So you're into this hobby, please support, please show some love. Outside from that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.